Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mindful Inclusiveness. This is episode number 2. So, once a month, Mica and I are coming to you to talk about the topic of the month. And this month is mindful appreciation. And it's going to be a doozy of a topic. So, we've got about 20 learners that have developed a community of practice towards being more inclusive, mindfully inclusive humans. And this month, what we're talking about is how appreciative are you of diversity? And I'm going to do a hard pause there because I'm going to ask that question again. How appreciative are you of diversity? And your knee jerk is going to be like, yeah, because I'm woke and I'm conscious and I'm doing all the things and reading all the things. But what we are talking about in this particular class is are you appreciative of all dimensions of diversity and all levels within those dimensions? And so that's where we all was like, ooh, wait a minute, hard pause. So that's going to be today's conversation. Basically the structure of it is Mica's going to open us up with the centering activity because we believe in being vulnerable. Then after that, we're going to have about 20 minutes to talk about the topic, and then Mica's going to close us out with another mindfulness activity. So, Mica, I am going to yield it over to you.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Not sure where you are listening to this or when. All right. We're going to start with a mindfulness exercise called the practice of smiling. And hopefully today you have already brought some kind of awareness to yourself. We're talking about mindful appreciation. And this mindfulness practice means it's feeling how you feel, acknowledging it for what it is with no judgment. And so instead of avoiding or shoving down maybe some pain or discomfort, you can accept it with care and attention. But that doesn't mean you have to sit in pain or discomfort doing nothing. The simple practice of smiling can actually trigger joy in the mind and body, helping relieve some of the pain or discomfort that you might be feeling or experiencing. And in this exercise, you will mindfully tune in to how it feels to bring a gentle smile across your face. And so you can close your eyes and get comfortable where you are. And if you're able to, keep your spine straight and bring your attention to the sensations of your body breathing. Start with the abdomen, tuning into the rising and falling. And you don't have to breathe in any particular way, but just notice the sensations. And move your attention to your chest. Feel the expansion and contraction as you continue to inhale and exhale. And when you notice that your mind wanders, simply bring your attention back to your breath. And then pay attention to the sensation of your breathing through your nose. And feel that subtle sensation of your breath. And open your awareness to scan your face. Notice if you're feeling any sensations around your forehead or your chin or your cheeks, your eyes, your mouth. Does anything grab your attention? And then finally, we're going to just allow yourself to softly smile. And you may try thinking of something that brings you joy as a way to encourage that smile to come, especially if you've had a difficult day. And as you smile, notice how the face and the breath feel. And tune into any changes that have happened with your breath. Any changes that you feel with the muscles in your face. And maybe some new feelings that arise. And you may try letting go of your smile and then bringing it back again. Maybe different thoughts of joy. And when you complete this exercise, go ahead and open your eyes and sustain your smile for as long as you feel comfortable. And then let it fade on its own, unless you just want to continue to smile, reflecting on the things that have brought you joy. And so, with this exercise, just think about the things that bring you joy because we're talking about mindful appreciation. And there are some things that we're going to talk about that sometimes are challenging. And in everything, do we appreciate what is going on around us? And can we find and see the joy even in difficult situations?
Wow. Thank you so much, Mica. So I don't know if you saw that during the mindfulness activity, but Dr. Mo was on and she was like, Mica with the Peloton meditation instructor voice, because you are just powerful. Yes, Michelle. Michelle Jones said joy is everywhere. We totally agree. And so we're going to talk about the joy of learning a little bit more about yourself. Mo says she's still here. I'm still here with y'all. Thank you, Mo. Thank you for the support. And so, as Mika was saying in our Mindful Inclusiveness course series, which is a 12-month course series where every month we're focusing on a different attribute related to being inclusive. Um, this month we're focused on mindful appreciation. And so the question that was asked in our community of learners was are you appreciative of diversity? And my knee jerk was yes, right? I was like, most definitely I am, right? That's kind of what people know me for. Um, but then when I took a moment and kind of stepped back and looked at kind of, what does it mean to show appreciation? Um, all of those different languages of love and listening, I was like, ooh, I'm really not. There are certain dimensions of diversity that I have to work at a little bit harder than others. And so that was my kind of wake up call to myself of, you know what, there's still more work to be done. And I think any of us that are in this kind of, equity, inclusion, diversity space, we know that there's always going to be work to be done. And part of your self work is figuring out, okay, where do you have opportunities to make sure that you are allowing for everyone to show up as their authentic selves, even if it might disagree with your core values and your beliefs. And so, Mika, what was your initial thoughts when you answered that question about are you appreciative of diversity?
So I think everybody was like, yes, of course we are. And when we dive into it a little bit more, the question really should be, well, what are these elements of diversity that I should be appreciative of? Because if you're just aware of the things that are visual, I see that I'm different than, or I'm similar to individuals in any particular different dimension than for that. But maybe the things that we don't talk about. So once again, self-reflection is a big part of this mindfulness journey that I'm on, and taking that moment to look at those elements of diversity and really say, like, if I'm looking at somebody that is similar to me, or different within these same elements that we all share, um, do I still appreciate the difference? Do I appreciate the extremes, the contrasts that can be present? And that's where no, not every element has a comfortability. Some of it is because maybe I don't know people that are different. For some of these different elements, and there are elements of diversity that are they originate with us from birth. And then there are some elements that change over time. And so as we, move and progress in our career, in our life, where we live, maybe you grew up one place, and you were okay with that until you moved, if it's geographic, urban, suburban areas, then, can you still be respectful of people in those different environments? So it definitely is a pause to, one, be aware of what all these elements are. And then for those that differ, and sometimes there is some pain that's there, especially when it's a complete opposite.
Most definitely. And so, what is on the screen right now is one example of a diversity wheel. There are multiple permutations out here of the diversity wheel, but there's inner elements and also outer elements that Dr. Mica was talking about. And so, our as we're doing this work as a group of learners, one of the things that was asked was which dimension or which level of a particular dimension do you have more comfortability with? Do you find it easier to be appreciative of those people? And I had to be honest with myself. It's definitely for me, Black people, right? That's my tribe. If I was to look at any of these dimensions, definitely race and my level of race being African American or Black, that's where I feel most at home. And so I knew that it was easier for me to, show appreciation and love and extra patience and extra listening to people that are, identify as Black or African American. Um, Now, when the question was asked about where do I find, my least, where do I find myself having to work at the hardest? I went back and forth, y'all. I'm just gonna be honest with it. I was like, "Ooh, there were certain levels within particular dimensions that I was like, maybe that, maybe not that." And it has taken me almost 2 weeks of processing to get to the place of where I'm like, okay, I think I know what it is. And I'm gonna put this out here in a very vulnerable space. And I know some people gonna come for me, and that's okay. Bring it because I'm ready for it because I've done my work. I think where I have to be much more intentional and make sure that I am listening, because if I engage with someone in a conversation and I ask your thoughts or your opinion, then it is my responsibility to stay engaged, right? It is not okay to say, "Hey, what's your thoughts on this?" And then that person disagree, and then you be like, "Oh, I'm canceling you," right? That's not a conversation. That's not how that works. Now, if I'm coming from a selfish place and I just want to tell you what I think of you, then yeah, that's going to be real effective. But if I'm trying to enter into civil discourse and have a dialogue, then I've got to make sure that I stay engaged and I remain inclusive, even if we agree or disagree. And so, in my thinking about that, y'all, where I have to work the hardest is with persons who identify with different dimensions of diversity, but they've got the ability to pass, right? So they've got that ability to do what's called passing. So it may be that you are someone who identifies as a member of the LGBTQ community, LGBTQ plus community, but you kind of navigate in and out of that dimension based on maybe your external appearance, maybe based on who you decide to share that information with. Those persons I find are sometimes a place where I have to make sure I stay welcoming. And I think part of the reason is because there's some jealousy there from me. Because I'm like, I don't get to shift in and out of my Blackness, even though, yes, I understand people are from that community are going to say, but no, Lisa, I'm always that person. Yes, you are, but you get to make a decision on who you're going to share that with. And so there's jealousy within me. There's a little FOMO within me where I'm like, ooh, that would be nice to sometimes just walk into a room and not have that knapsack weight of the first thing people see is my Blackness. But it is the cards that I've been dealt, and I'm grateful and thankful for my Blackness. But I do recognize that that is a barrier for me. And it's also the same thing for people who have racial or ethnic backgrounds that allow them to pass as white, right? That proximity to whiteness, which in my mind allows for certain privileges. And so I have to make sure that when those people are talking about their journey talking about their vulnerability, about, isms and discrimination and macro and microaggressions that have been done against them, I have to make sure that I'm like, yeah, yeah, you had a little bit, but you kind of get to decide, right? Um, because that is someone's lived experience. And so I have to honor that just as much as I want them to honor mine. And so that is something that I have to continue to work on if I'm going to be mindfully inclusive. And so, Mika, I'm gonna put you on a hot seat. You
Yes, hot seat.
you can share as much or as little as you want to, but maybe talk a little bit about what your thoughts are in regards to when you thought about who are you most appreciative of and who are you least appreciative of, and we're using that word in a very negative connotation, but just who do you find yourself having to work more for to be inclusive?
Thank you for your vulnerability, Dr. Van Hoos. It definitely helps to keep the conversation going. And I definitely find it easier and I can appreciate where I have similarities with people. And so part of that is getting to know people. Part of who I am a connector. I like to very curious to know a lot about different individuals. And the more I can know about you, then the more I know that we're similar. And so as we're talking, where are you from? What do you do? Sometimes what you look like, and those things, it's easier for me to feel comfortable, or at least to be more vulnerable. I am more likely to be reserved when I'm in a space where there are people that are just opposite me for in all of those elements of diversity. And so it's hard, you talked about that you're still processing. I am still processing what is the one that like triggers me. I'm not sure if this this mindfulness journey has kind of taken me to where my trigger is not quick, or that fuse does not light quickly anymore. So it really, I think at its core, it's the difference, and the difference with, if there's any aggression behind that, an individual that just does not want to conform or consider the your existence, your lived experience. Once again, getting to know people and talking to, or hearing or seeing what how they're communicating. So I feel like it's not any one specific thing. It's just if there is some difference between us, and then there's some aggression, I absolutely am not likely to engage. As Dr. Lisa Van Hoos will say, I will bless it and let it go, because I have to preserve my energy, my well-being. And with this question, it also allows me to then go back and then do that self-work, because as I'm protecting myself to not get triggered and not get upset and not lash out, because you still want to maintain a relationship with people that are around you, because it could be your patients, it could be your healthcare providers, it could be your educators, it could be anybody that you're encountering. And when you burn a bridge, it's hard sometimes to build it back if everybody's not willing to do that work and do their self-reflection. And so I think that's the answer. And I'm still processing it.
Thank you so much for kind of talking us through where you're at, and that it's okay to say, I'm still processing it, but here's the parts that I know, right? And
Mhm.
that's just part of being human. That we only know what we think we know. One of my favorite quotes is from Alice in Wonderland, where she's like, "There's no sense, right, in asking me about it tomorrow because I'm gonna be a different person." So each day we're evolving. That's the evolution that we see if we're putting that work forward. And I love the fact that you talked about, not lashing out and how are you going to respond. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening in our community of practice across our learners. So we were blessed to have Jenna Cantor come into our live session and work with our group of learners. And so we can't tell you all the goodness that happens there, but what we can tell y'all is Jenna Cantor is skilled. That girl is bad.
That girl's good.
That girl is good. She good. Because what we asked Jenna to do was to come in and role play the extremes of different levels of these dimensions of diversity, be it, maybe political beliefs, maybe um, racial beliefs. And Jenna did it like she taught a master class. And the challenge was for you to interact with that person and stay fully engaged, not to try to trigger them, not to act out of defense, but to really try to listen to what they were saying. And it was powerful. We are still processing that amazing show of artistry that Jenna Cantor did, y'all. But I'm gonna be honest. I was like, if she reached down one more time and grab another prop and become somebody else, because I'm a little older, and so I remember like I believe it was Eve, the woman with like multiple personalities. Wow, that's who Jenna was. It was amazing. It was amazing. So before we go to the next question, Mica, did you have any thoughts on Jenna's performance?
She definitely nailed all of the extremes. And kind of to what Dr. Caruth is saying, it put everybody, whether you were whatever, at some point in time, you may be of a minority, but like most of our participants were like, okay, what are we going to do with this? This person that is very confident in their whatever opinions that she had, as the different roles that she played. But sometimes it's not so much in what's happening in the right now, because you'll get through it, right? A lot of what people did was they maintain calm. They were able to decide like how much can I engage and how much, in character did she stay. And so it wasn't so much about the right then, but it really was about that processing and how we learn that metacognition, that reflection is so important, and then how we move forward. And then kind of to this point of, where there's a burden for those that are minoritized to have to deal with these interactions and the oh they'll get over it statements. It's We're now in a place that we are talking about it more, speaking truth to power, and being in mixed company with lots of different individuals to say this is kind of what this experience is like all the time, and being able to give some examples and some tools to work through it. Your individual safety is most important, how you engage or don't engage, because once again, you have to take care of self. Always, you got to take care of self first. But there is this work that's happening, especially as you reflect and process. And, after it happened, then you may see things on social media and you're like, oh, I should have said that. Or you see something in the news, man, I could have done that. But that's how you grow. So, yeah.
And I love the fact that you talked about how that we're not saying that when you engage with someone and maybe that conversation becomes volatile, that you stay there and you traumatize yourself. That is not what we're saying. What we're saying is that you're going to make every attempt to engage and remain inclusive. But if you find that you are being traumatized, you are being triggered, then what we are talking about in our community of practice and amongst leaders is to say something in regards to, I need to leave this conversation because I can no longer listen to you, or I can no longer be kind. And what you're saying is important, but I need to step away so I can center myself. And then you can always come back to a conversation if that person is interested in having a conversation with you, right? Because there is some shared responsibility when you come into a dialogue. And so, but we don't um, want you to leave a conversation going, up, I'm leaving it because you're stupid and this and this and this, right? We're trying to not judge people, but judge or assess the behavior. because everyone has goodness in them. Everyone basically wants to be seen. And so we want to make sure that we let that person know we see you. We know that we might have a difference of opinion with you, but right now I can't engage in this and still recognize the humanity in you in a kind way. So I need to step away. I need to step away. And so as we think about that, recognizing the humanity and showing appreciation of people, we're asking each other to help hold us accountable. And so, like for me, I know that if I am at a place where maybe I'm not as appreciative of your diversity or your differences in diversity, the differences that we have, what I will often do is I will lean back from a conversation. So if you are ever in a conversation with me and you see me do a lean back, that's your cue to say, "Hey, Lisa, wait a minute. I need you to engage with me. Come back into this conversation." Because you'll even notice it while I'm speaking on this podcast. I lean forward, I lean into the energy. And so if you ever see me do a lean back on you,
Oh,
that
now
means,
we watching.
right, right. And Michelle Jones said, all tables are not for you. That is very true. And so there are sometimes you got to get up from the table so that you can be healthy. And so, but in that case, you're getting up from the table because you're like, look, this is not my table. Or maybe this table is not ready for you, right? Because every table needs to be set. So maybe that table's not set and ready for you. And that's okay to acknowledge that. But you're not going to beat the table up, smash the table, cuss the table out. That's just not necessary. And so for me, what I have to make sure that I do is if I have made a decision to engage with someone, then I need to make sure I lean into that conversation. The other thing is that if you're ever in a conversation with me and you notice that I'm not repeating what you're saying, so typically, what I will do as a sign of recognition is after you have spoken your truth, I will say, okay, what I'm hearing is this. If you're in a conversation and you don't hear me say that to you in some form or fashion, I probably wasn't listening. It's just the honesty of it.
Is that every conversation?
It probably is most conversations. I will either give you, okay, I understand what you're saying, or I think this is what I'm hearing. But if you in a conversation with me and I don't give you affirmation, then that means that what you're saying, I'm like, oh, that's so left from what I think that I'm just in my mind, I'm working on my grocery list. So help me be accountable in my mindfulness journey and say, hey, Dr. Van Hoos, hey, Lisa, are you listening? Right? Because if you're not listening, then we can just move on. Right. So those are some things where and that's the kind of things we're talking about in our community of practices. How can we hold each other accountable to being mindfully inclusive? So I just then gave y'all all my tea. So now some of y'all gonna be talking to me and y'all gonna be like, this heifer is not listening to me. And I'm gonna be like, I sure wasn't. But you can challenge me and be like, okay, what was it that triggered you or lost your engagement with me? And in my commitment, I will try to articulate that into words. So, Dr. Mitchell, how much tea you gonna spill?
What's the question? Because I'm like, I don't. Now I'm like, do I do lean in?
Yeah.
What we
So the question is,
we
so
telling on
appreciate.
ourselves if I'm
So
not engaged?
right, we telling on ourselves. So appreciation is actually a feeling. So
Yes.
that's something internally. And then the way in which you show your appreciation is what's known as recognition, which could be a variety of different ways, right? Verbal, through services, through all those kind of things. And so I was talking about how I show recognition or
Right.
how I show appreciation
Gotcha.
through the ways in which I dialogue with y'all. And I probably told you way too much. But Mika, you ain't got to spill all the tea.
So how I show appreciation? Showing up and being curious. Like if I'm not asking questions, you might be in trouble. And for clarity or for like, wow, that's good. Tell me more. Definitely leaning in. If I'm disengaged, it's probably similar or I'm like, have we had in-person interactions a lot? Maybe not as much, but finding things to distract me. So I do try in to be present. So if I can doodle, and doodling, I'm still attending. And so I think that may be a difference between us is sometimes I have to like look off to actually really listen to what's going on, but I will circle back around with a question. And that's where you're like, okay, or the summary of what was said. So if I'm not engaged, it's just, I'm not paying attention. I'm not asking questions. So yeah.
So you spoke to Michelle. Michelle was saying she is working on being present as well. And so Michelle, in the comment section, tell us what you're doing. So Mica talked about doodling. For me, being present, I have to engage with you. Like I need to make eye contact. Sometimes if you ask me a question and I'm thinking, I will look up, and really truthfully it's because at that point I'm praying to the Holy Spirit to give me something smart to say, where I'm like, Holy Spirit, activate. Um but I will find myself, if it's a question that requires a deep dive, I will look up. And that's not me being present. That is me actually convening with God to say, okay, what is it that you want me to say to this person? Because I want to make sure I'm a vessel of you. But my thing that I do try to do is I try to put my pen down, because for me, if I start doodling, I will start taking notes. And once I start taking notes, I'm thinking about how to fix whatever it is we're talking about. So, and that's just where we're all uniquely different. And so, but I think the key is as you're talking to someone, instead of you getting annoyed and being like, why is Mika doodling? Get curious and say, Miko, I noticed you're doodling while we're talking. Can you tell me more about that? Or Lisa, why are you looking up at the sky while I'm trying to have a conversation with you? My eyes are right here. And I'll be like, girl, because I'm asking God to help me make sure that I can be helpful to you. Michelle said that she is meditating daily, and that she tells herself to be present, and I control no one but me. Come on.
That right there. Can we get a mic drop? That is so important.
Yes. Yes. Because part of what I see in conversations is that people start triggering each other because you're trying to control what that person's saying. Or you're like, I don't like what you said, so I want you to say it a different way. So now I'm gonna say this to you. And like Michelle just said, you can control no one but you. And
And
all
sometimes
yeah, go ahead, me.
I was gonna say sometimes we have a hard time controlling ourselves and we still try to control somebody else. Like, no, no, no. Let's put our oxygen mask on first. Take care of
Yes.
ourselves first. And I think really believing that is a life change. It's a game changer, because then you don't put your expectations on other people. It's like, no, you are responsible for you. I'm responsible for me. Let me move forward.
Cool. So Mo said, well, I'm getting practice at trying to listen and stay engaged because I don't want to hear anyone I'm dating say all the time, Mo, you are not listening. Yes, Mo, don't be a bad date.
Stay engaged, Dr. Caruth.
So yes, we want you to get second and third dates because you are an amazing human. So we want them to get all of your goodness. So stay engaged, Dr. Carew. And Michelle said, I am a lot, Mika. Ask Lisa. That is very true. That is very true.
I love
But she is a package full of goodness, though. A package full of goodness.
awesome.
So, Dr. Mitchell, before we get ready to move into our last mindfulness activity, what's
Yes.
your closing words to people? It's as they think about mindful appreciation, what do you want them to think about?
Generosity and kindness, and whatever, like, honestly, the only person that you can control is yourself, is so true. But if you can't be kind to yourself, then, and if I can't appreciate myself in the good and the bad, we have our days where I'm like, I wasn't the best version of myself today, but let me see what I did that, was there a glimmer of light that shined bright? And if not, what can I do better tomorrow? And it's always setting forth those intentions. What is it that you intend to do? Write it out. Like, I have an alarm on my phone that reminds me of what my intentions are daily. So if I ever lose sight of that, or if I'm having a moment, I look at, when it pops up, I'm like, oh yeah, that is what I want to do. I want to represent and exude kindness and love. And so just do your self work to then be able to be mindfully appreciative of others and others in their difference, because there is something to learn. If everybody comes together in that sense, like, okay, we're different, we all are different, even if we look alike, we're still different. So if we come together and with that curiosity, which is why I try to stay curious, then we can really see, what can I learn from this person? They have crossed my path for a reason.
That was so good, right? The factor that everyone has something that you can learn from. And so I think my closing words would be that if you engage someone in a conversation, then at that point you have a responsibility. And so, we have rooted ourselves on this term ujima, which means collective work and responsibility. So if I start into this conversation with you, then my responsibility is to listen. And so I have to remind myself that as I am engaging you, am I engaging you because I am curious about your point of view? And for me to be curious about your point of view, I've got to appreciate your difference of opinion, because there are 8 billion people on this planet. So there are 8 billion ways of thinking about something. So can I be curious enough about your opinion? Or am I just being selfish, right? And I just want you to entertain me. So whatever you say, I'm like, I'm not really into it, but I'm going to let you be my person right now and keep me busy. Or am I wanting to fight? Because if I want to fight, then I'm listening to respond. And so I often ask myself, which of these three things am I doing? Am I being curious? Am I wanting to be entertained, or do I want to fight? And those are normally my three questions that I ask myself. And so just trying to always stay in that place of curiosity. And if I find myself going down the road of one of those other ones, y'all, then be a kind human and come out of that conversation with that person. Because number one, ain't nobody got time to be entertaining you, not unless you're paying for it, right? Then in that point, you need to tell that person, you know what, I'm really, the disagreements, the differences are just too much for me right now. And I'm not at a place where I can really have this dialogue and be curious about what you're saying. If that's what you're thinking, then you need to own that, have responsibility for your thoughts, and step out of that conversation. If I just want to fight with you, then you need to tell people that's what you're there for, so that way they can buck up, right? Because it's not cool fighting one person knowing that they coming for the fight and the other person thinking we trying to have a conversation. You traumatizing people. Don't be that person. Don't be that person. So that would be my advice, is just kind of think about those three things. Are you coming from a place of curiosity? Are you trying to be entertained? And if so, then you should get your dollar bills out. Or are you coming just to pick a fight? And so hopefully you will come to be curious. So those are our thoughts now. And I see in the comments, Michelle's talking about kindness is paramount. That is true. That is true, y'all. We all on this planet spiraling in the middle of nowhere. There's only one way really out of this planet. So why not choose kindness? Dr. Cruz talks about consistency is needed. And Michelle said fighting does not end well, does not end well. It very seldom does. Very, very seldom does. Um,
There's a time and a place for everything. So don't be confused that if that's what's needed, it won't go down. But all parties being fully aware of what what the end result and the expectation is, for
right?
sure.
So all parties know that we finna have this full out beat it moment. Just let the music play. Doom, 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 doom. Yes. Dr. White said, oh, I love this. She said, I believe that our paths cross for a reason. So she tries to say kind and curious. And so at this time, I'm going to be quiet and let Dr. Mica take the floor. and lead us in our final mindfulness activity. But thank y'all so much. And this is going to be good. We're going to get some more of that Peloton mindfulness instructor. That's what Dr. Karuf called it.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Caruth. And in our desire to be more mindfully inclusive, we should make sure that we're taking time to show compassion and appreciation to ourselves and others, which is what we'll do during this exercise. So take a moment to allow yourself to settle and get comfortable. You can close your eyes or gaze at the image. Allow your spine to lift and your shoulders soften. And we're going to be practicing compassion. Begin by taking a full breath in and a long breath out, and then allowing your breath to find its natural rhythm. And let's start by thinking one of the kindest thoughts that you can about yourself. As human beings, we all have moments of difficulty, challenges, or suffering. And these moments can cause us to repeat unkind thoughts that may come to mind. But take a moment to acknowledge those difficulties. We see them for what they are. You've experienced, and this could be something that has happened in the past or currently. And take a moment to acknowledge those unkind words that you may have repeated about yourself in those difficult circumstances. And you can think of something specific, or you can kind of keep it general. And now imagine someone you know who cares about you. It can be someone present in your life now or someone from the past. And if not any particular individual, it could just be the general idea and feeling of a caring person. And imagine this being responding to your difficulty or those unkind thoughts, but they're responding with warmth and understanding. Allow yourself to receive their warmth and understanding, their well wishes for your well being and happiness, and their appreciation of you. Allow their care and concern to just fill you, mind and body. And as you inhale, breathe in their compassion for you. This is for you, all about you right now. Focus on yourself and allow yourself to be one with this self-compassion. And as you inhale and exhale, release that image. Now bring to mind someone you know who is having a difficult time. Bring this person to mind along with the awareness that they are struggling right now. And let yourself feel what you would wish for them. Think about the appreciation you have for this person and the kind thoughts and compassion that you want them to feel. You may wish them health, happiness, and contentment. And if it's not any specific words, just a general feeling, a wish for their well-being. And imagine them receiving this compassion and appreciation. And bring your focus back to your breathing. As you inhale, you're breathing in the compassion and appreciation for yourself. And as you exhale, you are expressing your compassion and appreciation for others. And even if you are not able to connect directly with feelings of compassion and appreciation, just bringing kind awareness to whatever it is you may be experiencing right now is a start. So, breathing in compassion for self, breathing out compassion for others. And as you let those images and those thoughts go, return to the awareness of your body, settling on your breath. Notice how you feel right now. What are the sensations in your body that you're noticing? And take a deep inhale and a long inhale, exhale. And as we come to the end of this mindfulness exercise, remind yourself daily that you can breathe in compassion for yourself and breathe out compassion for others as you continue this journey of mindful inclusiveness and mindful appreciation during enjoyable and difficult times, during good and bad thoughts. And as you're finishing your day, take a moment later to reflect. What did you notice most about yourself during this exercise? And write down um, what changes that you notice within yourself over time, coming back to this breathing in compassion for self and breathing out compassion for others.
I'm telling you, Dr. Mika, you need an app. You need an app. You really need an app. I would pay $14.99 a month. Might even pay $24.99 just to hear your voice. Take walking me through these mindfulness activities. You are just powerful. So before we get ready to leave, just want to tell the people where they can find you. What's the name of your company? Maybe also tell them about the Mindful Monday Mindful Mentoring Series that you also lead us through.
Thank you, Dr. Van Hoos. Thank you all for your comments. I can be found on Twitter at Mica Mitchell PT. My company is Creatively Meek, and I am continuing to evolve what that is, but it really is this creative space of finding where our gifts are. And right now, mine is sharing this mindfulness journey. So there will be more to come, but Creatively Meek is on Instagram and Twitter. And so that's where you can find me. The Mindful Mondays is a beautiful community, is place of support for students of all rehab professions. And honestly, if you're a student, period, come and join us, or encourage students that you know to join us. It is a beautiful space and a wonderful community. It is the second and fourth Mondays of every month. So, second and fourth Monday is Mindful Monday. And then we have Mindful Mentoring, which is for if you're not a student, if you're a practitioner, if you're just a human that you're like, I'm not a student, but I would like to join in some of this goodness. We meet on the third Monday of every month. And then June and July, because we practice wellness and self care, we do not meet during those months. So, thank you, Dr. Van Hoos.
Yes. And a few other things before we get ready to leave. So I've been asked in the past about some of the statement shirts that I wear, and many of them are focused on just reminding us to be kind and goodish. So, and if you are part of our mindful inclusiveness community, one of the things we watched was a TED talk from a researcher who talked about it is very difficult to be a good human. So maybe the goal is to be goodish. And so, if you're interested in that, we can share that link with you as well. But people have asked us about the t-shirts, and so Mica, as part of her company, really kind of mentored me and pushed me forward. So we actually have a t-shirt line, and we've got maybe 9 or 10 different lines. But Mica actually has this shirt on today, which basically says it's hashtag me season, because we believe in you, taking care of you first, right? She talked about that, how that it is totally okay for you to take care of you first. That is the expectation. But there are shirts on there that talk about, just being a goodish human and being a kind human. But then y'all also know me, and there's some shirts on there that are just outright just foolishness, because you gotta have a little foolishness in your life. So if you're interested in the collection, it's at www.theujima collective.org, and you can go and see all the things that are on there. But on
And
behalf,
it's not just t-shirts. Hold on. It's t-shirts. You can get stickers. There are bags. There are pillows on there. Don't get me started. I feel like I could do a whole infomercial about that line. And then you could pick different colors of your shirt. And I'm like, but wait, there's more.
yes, and in the
Yeah,
spirit of
it's cool.
inclusiveness, there are different styles of shirts, right? Because I got a little extra in the middle, so I can't wear everybody's shirt. So we think every shirt might have 9 or 10 different styles. So you pick what works best for you. But on behalf of myself and also Dr. Mitchell, we just want to say thank y'all for jumping on, and have a good day or good night, everyone. And we'll see you again in about a month.
Thank you.